All right, guys, in this video, you're going to learn the perfect male timeline and how you can set your life up to get everything you've ever wanted. But it's really important to make sure you don't mess this up like so many men do. Because most men don't understand this and simply don't put in the work, they end up with mediocre lives with financial struggles, dating women they're not interested in, or just simply struggling to get a date. And they end up with this life full of what ifs and wishing they had done things different. So let's get into the video. All right, guys, I'm really stoked to make this video. I think this is going to be a really good one, a game changer for you guys. So the first thing you need to understand is that your 20s break up into two parts. So you guys know I have talked over and over again about things like stay single and boring for 3 years. I've talked about how your 20s are this time where you really need to build something for yourself, really establish yourself. Well, something I've started to realize here in my late 20s is that your 20s actually break into two phases, and that's what we're going to discuss right now. So you guys who've been with me for a while, you've seen this chart before right here, but for the new people on the channel, basically what this chart shows is the two main different life paths that men can take. What you've got on the y-axis here is the quality of life for a man from a 0 to a 10, and then on the bottom on the x-axis, you've got the age of a man. Now, what the red line shows is the normal man's life path. So basically the way it works is you get out of high school, maybe you go to college, maybe you get some job for the first time that pays you a decent amount of money so that you have a little bit of expendable cash. You can see that your quality of life bumps up to like a 2 or a 3 out of 10. And this is when you're going to a frat party or you're getting drunk at your friend's house who has like a rental house that he's living in or something like that because he's some blue collar trade job, and you're getting drunk and high with him. And it's certainly better than high school. Like, you've got a level of freedom to yourself, but it's still like a really shitty quality of life. You're poor, you're not attractive to women, or like if you're in college, you're attractive to like some 19-year-old drunk sorority chick. It's really not the kind of woman you really want. It's those kinds of vibes. You're just driving a shit car, you're living a shit quality of life, to be honest, but it's a little bit better than it was in high school. And then you'll see as you hit your like early mid 20s right there, around 22, 23 years old, you'll see the quality of life drops back down to a 1 out of 10. This is when you've graduated college. And it's the welcome to the real world kind of moment where you're no longer the king on the college campus. You're just some dude at Starbucks, or you're the intern in the office and nobody gives a fuck about you. And you just lose all that status and that fun stuff, and you're just broke and trying to make things work, and it sucks. And then you get to your mid 20s and you'll see the quality of life rises back up to around a 2 out of 10. This is when you get your first promotion. Maybe you get an apartment or something like that. You're usually gaining weight by this point. The average person's not taking care of their health. And so maybe they've gotten a little bit of a bump in their career, but their health has fallen apart. And then you'll see that right here, things just start to decline to the point where by the time you hit 30 years old, the average person's living a 1 out of 10 existence, right? They're usually stuck in debt. They're usually dating some woman they're not interested in by this point who doesn't really respect them. They're usually out of shape. They have no power in their lives, and their life is kind of sealed in a lot of ways. Yes, you can change things, but for most people, they don't. And you can see that's kind of just the way it goes for most people. Now, on the blue line, you'll see that it starts at the bottom right there. And then as you progress through your 20s, things pick up, and to the point where it starts hockey sticking, and your quality of life ends up shooting up to a 10 out of 10. What does a 10 out of 10 life look like? It means you've got an abundance of money, plenty of money. Like, we're talking about an extremely high status lifestyle here, very high quality. You can go do cool shit. You've got an awesome car. You can buy what you want. Like, you're in fantastic shape. You're handsome. You do well with really pretty women. All that kind of stuff becomes possible for you as you continue to progress and level up as a man, and it just starts compounding on itself. So this is the way that things typically can work for men. It's either you're going to take the normal life path, or you're going to take this outlier kind of life path, and you're really going to make something exceptional of your life. So this first part, this is what I said, your 20s break into two phases. This first part right here, from about 18 to 24, roughly speaking, is the foundations. This is where you're doing a bunch of things that are going to set you up for the rest of your life, but it's not going to feel like much is happening, right? As you can see from there, like, let's say you started at 18, and by the time you get to 24, you're still only at like a 2, 3 out of 10 quality of life. It feels like you did nothing the whole time, but in reality, you did everything, and things are about to take off for you. And this is the foundational stage of your 20s. In this period, you establish the foundation that you will build upon. And then the second phase right here is the building phase. This is when everything really takes off like a rocket and you start making huge progress in life, and it's like all of a sudden you realize you have all the answers because you did it all in the foundational period when it didn't look like things were happening, and now everything just is taking off for you. And this is how your 20s can work. And you can also see that even for the normal life path right there, it's very similar, right? They get their little building phase around the same time that things start really picking up for the outlier guy. It's just that it's way smaller because they just didn't put in the work in the foundational period. And so they kind of cash out at like a 2 out of 10. And that's kind of where they end up at in their lives. In the building phase, you build what will define the rest of your life. So this is like your legacy play. It doesn't mean that you're done after this and that you're not going to do anything more after your building phase, but it's kind of like, like professional athletes are usually known for what they did in the building phase. You come into the NBA or the Premier League or whatever it is, and you like establish yourself and you figure out the game in the first few years, and then you really hit your prime. And this is when you basically define your legacy. It's going to be the same with artists. It's the same with literally everybody goes through this. And you're essentially going to build what you are going to be kind of defined by in this building period, because you reach a point later on, which we're going to discuss, where it's kind of like, it's time to move on from like solely focusing on personal growth and excellence. Like you start thinking about different things. You're like, I'm not getting any younger here. And you start thinking about family. You start thinking about different kinds of things that are proper elements of maturity that you're going to start considering as you age as a man. And so essentially what you do in this building phase is kind of what everything else will look like after that, right? If you build something shit in this period, your life's probably going to be kind of shit. You're going to spend a lot of time cleaning that mess up. You build something excellent, your life's going to be excellent, and you can keep adding on to that. But like the core of what you've built has already been established during this period. So here's how this works. You've got 3 phases. Phase 1 is the foundations. This is roughly from ages 18 to 28. Kind of depends on when you start. That's why I say it's a range. Typically, this phase is going to be 3 to 5 years, roughly speaking, which is your foundations. If you start at 18, you'll probably be done with it around like 23. You start at 20, you'll probably be done with it around like 25, things like that. In this phase, you're going to build your body, your career skills, your mindset, etc., that will build your legacy upon. So everything that you're going to build what you become is established during the foundational period. This is when I tell you to stay single and boring. This is when you're not even attractive to women, so you might as well stop trying to chase ass all the time. Get in the gym, get focused on your career, level up your mindset, do all that personal growth stuff so that you've built an incredible foundation that you can build upon. The foundation will define what is possible for you in your life. If you have a shit foundation, it's just like a house, right? If the foundation, I'm in real estate, if the foundation is cracked, like you can't even get a loan on the house. Right? Like the foundation's a mess. The house is just done. Basically, it's toast. Like you're going to have to redo the whole thing. You can't even get a financing for a house with a bad foundation. Foundation is everything. It's like the part that's super boring that nobody thinks about, but it is literally everything that everything else is built upon. It is the foundation. It seems like nothing is happening, but really you're doing the most important work here. This is when you're going to get like all the tools in your toolkit that allow you to build something great in this period. In phase 2, you have the building phase, which we discussed. This is roughly from ages 24 to 34. Again, depending on when you start is going to determine when you finish it. It's going to be around 3 to 5 years again for this phase, maybe 7 years, something like that. This is when you take what you did in the foundations and you run with it. All your foundations give you the opportunity to build something big. So it's like you've set yourself up in this position where now it's like the world is your oyster. You've kind of gotten out of the tutorial phase of life. You understand the game enough. You kind of put the pieces together to where it's like, I mean, I'm in this phase right now. You start looking at life and you're like, I could actually go do this shit now. Like I see what's possible for me here. Like I see a clear path to it. I don't know every answer, but it's like I know how to get there and I'll figure out the other stuff and I know how to figure out the other stuff. And you start seeing what's possible for you because you laid the foundations, and those foundations define what is possible for you, right? Because you can't see the massive opportunities until you understand things at a certain level, right? Like if you don't really understand content, you can't imagine what's possible to be built off of being excellent at creating content. If you're not in fantastic shape or you're not in athletics or something like that, you can't really imagine what it's actually like and what's actually possible for you as an athlete or somebody when it comes to your physical appearance and attractiveness. It's just hard to imagine it if you haven't done it, right? If you don't have the foundations established. So it's really important to nail those foundations. Those are going to define what you're going to build moving forward. This is the phase that will determine yourself in life and what place you will end up at, right? Like you're kind of going to like listen, you can make big jumps moving forward, and again, like you're gonna have like people who maybe they do this later in life, or and like there's things you can add that are kind of like icing on the cake to what you've built. But if what you've built in your career is something that earns you 80, $90,000 a year by the time you're in your mid 30s, it's like you might get up to like 120, 150, something like that. But you would have to make a serious pivot and do a lot of other shit to get up to like 7 figures a year, right? Whereas if in the building phase, you established something that is like a 7-figure a year business, like you're bringing in, like you're taking home 7 figures after taxes and like paying yourself a salary and all that kind of stuff out of your LLC. It's like now at this point, it's like you could do massive things, right? And you've built something else. And like maybe you go from $1 million a year to like 10 million a year. That becomes possible for you. It's all based on what you build here. So it's like all of these things are stacking on each other. It's like the foundation, then the building phase, and the building phase defines what everything else is going to look like, right? If during the building phase, you didn't really take care of your health that much, you didn't really maximize your physical attractiveness, you have a mediocre career going for yourself, it's like you're going to have some mediocre chick that you'll end up knocking up, that she's not all that into you, doesn't really respect you. But if you built yourself, you made yourself really attractive physically, you were in the gym, you have a high status career, you have a really strong network, you're very financially successful, it's like now you can have an extremely attractive woman who's really submissive and is like the perfect woman for you, right? So everything that you're going to have in your life, those permanent kind of things, they're established during this building phase based on what you create out of the foundations that you made. Basically, that's how this works. This is the phase when you become recognized as a leader, you start building a social life, and a dating life becomes a real option at this point. So like, I wouldn't tell you this is a period to be looking at getting married. This is not the time to plant like permanent roots or anything like that, because you still have to be focused on building something. Basically, once you start planting permanent roots, you've kind of said, I'm cashing out of the building phase. That's basically what you're doing at that point. But you get to the point where you're now attractive and you've gone through enough of the shit and you understand how to play the game enough that you can now have a social life. People that you would want to be friends with want to be your friend, and women that you would want to date now want to date you. These things start becoming options for you. The foundation defines how high you can build. Now, guys, it's important to understand that lots of men make a huge mistake transitioning between foundations and building, which we're going to cover later in this video. And that is like, it's the crux of this video, is this huge mistake that I don't want you guys to make, because most of you guys watching this, you're going to be in the foundations phase, or maybe you're in your building phase right now and you might be making this mistake, and it's really important to make sure you don't screw this up. So the third phase, this is the established phase. This is roughly going to be around 30 to 34 years old and beyond. You are now recognized for what you build, which defines your legacy. So you built something and people recognize you based off of that. And that's kind of your credibility, your credential, and all that kind of stuff. Everything from here is icing on the cake, right? So like an example of this is like Floyd Mayweather, right? Floyd Mayweather built his career as one of the greatest boxers of all time, and now he has a supplement line. He buys commercial real estate as investments. These are icing on the cake, but who he is was built already, pretty much. Things like legacy, family, and community start to become priorities here. Like you can no longer go all in on personal greatness and accomplishments here. It's just not feasible. And it's not even that. It's like, yeah, you could keep doing it, but you almost get to a point where it's like, all right, like it's time to cash in your chips at some point. It's like, you just max certain things out in your life at some point where you're like, I've done what I was here to do with this. I got something done. Usually it takes around 3 to 7 years to accomplish some monumental goal you've set for yourself. And by the time you get it, you're like, some people keep going, but for the most part, you get there and you're like, I set myself up. I got what I wanted out of life here. I put in this work, and now I'm interested in focusing on other things. It's like I'm making $1 million a year. Do I need to make 10? Does it really change my life that much? Do I care? Or would I rather start thinking about other things in my life and moving on to different priorities? And yes, I'll continue to focus on business. Yes, I'll continue to focus on my health. But at 34 years old, is it like time to, go become a professional boxer or something? Or is it more like, hey, like I would like to have a family, right? You get into this phase where it's like, it's time to like, you've established something, you've done what you're going to do, kind of, you've had that prime run for yourself. And, if you fucked it up, you fucked it up. And, you can always go back and do it later, but you're starting to fall behind and the pieces are kind of out of order now. You can do that. Probably still the best option to do it. But ideally, you did this correctly and you hit your actual prime and you actually did everything right, so that now you get done with it and you're kind of at peace with what you did. You really want to be like Kobe in his last game when he dropped 60 and he said Mamba out, and he never picked a basketball up again and he just went on to the next thing. That's kind of the attitude you want to take, but you got to do it right in the building phase. And then you get into this phase and you start moving on to the next more kind of broader kind of things that you're going to be interested in as a man. There are exceptions, things like late bloomers and the second wind, but this is the rule. So late bloomers is people who, they just get started late with all this kind of shit, and so they're just behind. And then the second wind, like an example of this would be like Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump's legacy was established as a massive real estate mogul, billionaire, TV celebrity, and then he went on to be president, which has usurped all of the things he did before that. So he had his second wind, which built an even bigger legacy. Very few people do this. It's like, if you do it, that's cool. That's kind of like a personal preference and what you're inspired and motivated by at the time. Most people tend to kind of ride and continue to just build upon what they built during the building phase. So it's like, there's a great example of a guy in my town here. He's a professional natural bodybuilder, and he's like a 2-time Mr. Olympia in the natural bodybuilding competition. And so he established himself with that. He built that, and then he launched a supplement line, and now he owns gyms. And so it's like, it was all built off what he built there with the fitness, with the training and the bodybuilding, and everything else just starts coming off of the sides of that. And that's kind of his thing. It's like, most people aren't going to make some dramatic pivot at 40 or 50 where it's like, I know I was on this path for the last 20 years. Now I'm going to go jump into this thing. Like, it takes a very like an Elon Musk or a Trump kind of personality to even want to do that. Like, I don't know if I'd want to do that, Like, I mean, you'd have to turn around and basically figure everything out again. Do you really want to do that? You're already the master of a certain game. Like, it would have to be a situation where your life just wasn't what you wanted it to be, I think, personally, or you just have to have a huge appetite for that kind of stuff in your life. Understanding these 3 phases is key to navigating male life properly, and most men mess this up. Here's an example. I think athletics is a perfect way to see this in real life, because athletics is basically like a simplified version of reality. And so you can very clearly see how these 3 phases work. So the first phase, we'll use LeBron James as the example here. LeBron James' early career, he established all the foundations to be the greatest of all time. Now, if you think, I think personally Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time, but if you're a LeBron James fan, it doesn't matter. The point is, like, when he was in his early career, everyone was like, yo, this guy could be like the greatest ever. He could be all-time great. He could be a legend, right? He could be a Mount Rushmore figure. And that was established based on the things he did early in his career, right? And that's the foundation. He starts winning MVPs. He's working on refining every aspect of his game, including the intangibles, right? Like, LeBron James was notoriously into taking care of his health way before it became trendy for the entire league to do it. Like, he was setting all those foundational pieces up. He was studying with greats. He was learning how to be a great leader, right? Another example of this, for those of you who don't know the NBA, hopefully this will still resonate with you, but like, Carmelo Anthony, who came in at the same time as LeBron James, he really didn't establish the same foundation. He didn't really take care of his health. He didn't really refine his game. He just had his game and he stuck to it. He did a couple things, but like, he didn't like ground it out. And so, yes, he wasn't going to be as great as LeBron either way, but he probably got 60 to 70% of the potential out of his career that he really could have gotten. Whereas I would tell you LeBron James has gotten 100% out of what his career could be, because he set the right foundation up. And so his ceiling was just massive, right? And then you see he moves into his build phase, which is where he builds the legacy as one of the all-time greats, right? Whatever you think of him and his career, whether you think he's the best, the second best, fifth best, whatever you think he was, like that's kind of defined by what he did from the Miami Heat era to the end of his Cleveland Cavalier era, right? Like that's what defined it. It was winning the Game 7 and the 3-1 lead that he came back from, all that kind of stuff. Mainly in his career, LeBron James is known for what he did with the Miami Heat and his second run with the Cavs. This is when he starts winning championships. This is when he cements his legacy, right? Like basically everything he does beyond this becomes extra, right? And so this is what he built. And then he moves into the third phase, which is the established phase. His legacy is unquestioned. When he went to the Lakers, his legacy was completely unquestioned at this point. Like you thought what you thought of him, right? Like if you thought he was the best, you thought he was the best. You thought he was the second best, you were going to think he was the second best no matter what he did pretty much from this point. That was kind of the thing. He really could only enhance things, but he can't really hurt anything from this point. And this is kind of what you do for every guy who really goes through this. That's the point. Like this is not just about athletics. Literally every man goes through these phases, right? Like once you've built something, it's like it's kind of built. And like barring some scandal that you do like OJ Simpson type shit, your legacy's kind of like locked in. You know, it's like, okay, this is what he did. And now everything else is extra from here. He started looking at things like business, movies, and long-term plays beyond what he had built in the NBA. And that's why he went to the Lakers, right? He didn't go there to chase championships. He went there for the business opportunities, the Hollywood connections, things like that. And so he starts adding icing to the cake with more awards, but the core of his reputation was unchanged, right? He becomes the all-time leading scorer. He did win another championship, but like, really he was just he was a defined asset based on what he had built, and everything here was just additional stuff, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same thing, right? It's not like everybody's like nobody defines LeBron James by his Lakers era. They define him by his Cavs and his Heat era. That's what he's defined by. Insert your favorite athlete. You'll see that this trajectory is very true for all of them, and literally based on what they do in the foundations is largely what defines their potential. A Lionel Messi was already going to be one of the greatest ever when he played soccer. He built something, which I would say his building phase culminated with winning a World Cup. And now ever since then, he's just an established commodity. Like he is what he is. He's unquestioned. He can't really hurt anything from this point. He can only enhance it in certain ways, but he's still defined by what he did with Barcelona and what he did with Argentina, things like that. So you see how that works, right? Everyone has these three phases. So like a few more examples for you. An entrepreneur, right? The foundations for entrepreneurship. You're going to learn all those core business elements. And during that period, you're not going to be making much money. It's going to suck. You're just trying a bunch of businesses. They're all failing. I've been through this. You're trying all this stuff. It's all failing. You're figuring all this stuff out. And then you start cracking the code, but you've got these certain foundational skills in place. You've got your industry specific skills, right? For me, it's like real estate, fitness, things like that. I understand these certain niches. And then you've got your specific business skills like marketing and sales and copywriting and, web design or whatever, content creation, you know how it is, direct mail, like whatever your thing is, you've got those certain pieces put in place. Maybe, tech, whatever it is, these certain things. And that leads you into the building phase where you build upon all of that stuff that you knew, which shows you what's possible for you moving forward in your life. You build whatever your big thing is going to be. And then you make your exit from that, or you just ride it off with the company. And then you're kind of an established commodity, right? In the business world, this build phase can take a lot longer. But like a Jeff Bezos, like he kind of was building for quite a long time, right? He's an established person at this point. He's not building anymore. He's doing things. He's doing Blue Origin or whatever. I think it's called Blue Origin, his space company, all those different things. He's still doing these things, but he's established. You're like, he built Amazon. That's his thing, right? And so like in the business world, this can sometimes take longer, but even still, like Amazon was kind of what it was when he built it from probably like the late 2010s to around 2021 or so. Like that was kind of what it was built off of, was like a chunk right there where it happened. Everything beyond that is just icing on the cake, truthfully. If you're in a corporate position, you're going to start as like some $40K per year intern in some job. You're going to continue with the skills that you need to have. You're going to network. You're going to understand how to do LinkedIn. You're going to do all these different things that put you in position so you can rise up the corporate ladder. You're going to get your first big promotion to like 60, 70K per year. And then you're going to get the next one to $140,000 a year. Maybe you start climbing up that corporate ladder fast. And by the time you hit your mid 30s, you're moving into some real big paydays and you're kind of establishing yourself, right? It's just this phase that kind of happens. And a lot of like like also during the building phase, if you're just some fucking lackey at a corporation, right? You're a hole in the wall, you're not really pursuing anything. That is really defined during the build phase too. If you just show up and collect a check, then by the time you're like 30 years old, they're not really viewing you as the guy. Like they've kind of decided like, okay, this guy's hustling, he's going to rise up. This other guy over here, he's not hustling. He's just going to keep getting his job and getting like average reviews on his annual performance review, and we'll just keep him until we can get a robot to replace him. Basically, that's kind of how it works. Like you're building this thing in this phase, and it's going to define what you are at that point. Here's how you can play this right so that you can maximize your life as a man. It's important to understand first that a tower can only rise as high as the foundation allows. So these two things right here, these are both foundations, and you can see that both of them have a certain height that the structure can actually go based on how big the foundation is. And this is a really important metaphor, right? You're not going to have like a 1 foot wide foundation and build 1,000-foot tall building. I mean, here's the example. This is the Burj Khalifa right here. So as you can see from this graphic right here of the Burj Khalifa, it's got a reinforced concrete mat foundation that looks like it's probably about 30 to 40 feet deep, maybe even 50 feet deep. So you've got this gigantic foundation. It's wider than the building. It's like 30 to 50 feet deep. And then below that, you've got 192 foundation piles. Each pile is 43 to 50 meters in depth. So these things are going like 150, 200 feet into the ground, these like pylons essentially attached to the concrete mat, which is the foundation. So they put all of that into the foundation before they ever built up. And they had to do all that to secure the building so that the building could be built great, because the foundation had to be massive to make this work. You don't do that on a single family house, right? You don't need to, because you're not building something as big, right? So that's the metaphor there. You need to understand that the foundational period is like, you have to put everything right so that you can build big, right? So start with that width. Don't think about cashing in your chips now, because that means you basically said, all right, the foundation's good, I'm gonna cash in. Now, keep building that foundation out. Get it established for yourself. What you choose to focus on during the foundation period will define what's possible for you going forward. This is why the average person doesn't have much potential. They didn't build a good foundation. They went to college and got a random degree. They did not continue to educate themselves. They did not get in the gym. They did not develop their mindset. They don't have much ambition. And so they have this kind of blah foundation. It's just a shit foundation. And so what can you build off of that? Right? You're going to go from 40K per year to maybe you build to a 90K per year income. And that's kind of the game for you, right? And you're stuck in that box that you've created for yourself unless you put in a lot more work to get out of it. But that's kind of what you've built. You had a shit foundation, so the height that you can rise just isn't all that high. And so it's important for all of you guys to ask yourself, what is the potential based on the things I'm doing right now? This is something I try to do with my school community, guys, is set them up in avenues where the foundations that they're building have sky high potential for them, right? It's like they're learning important skills, or they're in a business already that has upside potential, that can develop an awesome lifestyle, that can get them the kind of money that they really want to make, all those kinds of things. It's all about that foundation, right? If you're like, I'm going to start at McDonald's, I'm going to hustle, like you're going to end up the manager of McDonald's and make 50K per year or some shit. If you're, working some random blue collar job or something like that, it's like, what's the potential? And then really you need to just ask yourself, is that potential what I want? Can I build, is that building high enough for where I want to go in life, right? Gets me to 120K per year. I'll be in the gym, so I'll be jacked and I'll make 120K per year. If that is your goal, if that's what you want to build, that's great. Go for that. Do it. For me, I want something bigger than that. And so you got to establish a foundation that is big enough to get you where you want to go. The average person doesn't build a strong foundation and therefore can't build something huge. In your foundational period, you need to lay down a big enough foundation to allow you to build something you want. So it's that intentionality of understanding where you're trying to go in the long run, what you want to achieve. Are you in a vehicle that can get you there? Is the foundation you're laying down going to get you where you want to be? If you want to be an incredibly attractive guy, it's like, are you building the foundation of a really great physique in your 20s right now? Or are you eating fucking chicken McNuggets and fucking around, right? if you want to be, somebody who's athletic, right? Like at this point in my life, because in my foundational period, I made myself in fantastic shape. I became incredibly strong. It becomes an option for me to not only have an aesthetic body, but also go box and do these kinds of things. Whereas if I didn't have the body, it's like I couldn't do both. I'd have to go get in the gym, and the boxing thing would just kind of be this thing that I really couldn't focus on until later in life. And the opportunities for that would be closed, basically. Because I set the foundation up, I now can have this like semi sort of athletic career in my late 20s that I'm kind of like doing. It's not like a professional thing I'm trying to do necessarily, but like I have that option because I've been in fantastic shape. So I don't have to get in shape now. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, let me jump in here and I'm immediately like already athletic enough to do the boxing. And then I just got to work on the fundamentals of it and all that kind of stuff. So like these things become options for you based on the foundation you lay down, and certain doors close for you if the foundation isn't built big enough. It's like you just feasibly cannot build to a certain level because you didn't do the work. Here's my example of just kind of how this works. Like in my building phase, I learned about real estate. I learned about content creation. I learned about marketing, sales, product, fitness, mindset, etc. Like I learned a ton of shit about personal growth that allows me to sit here on this channel and riff and talk about all this kind of stuff. And like, what does that lead to? What's possible out of that, right? What kind of foundation is that? Well, it means that I can sit here and talk and have thousands of people listen to me every single time I'm yapping here about shit, because I learned some stuff, because I have some wisdom to pass down. So there's a foundation that was built. If I hadn't been doing all that stuff, if I'd just been watching fucking basketball all the time, I couldn't do this shit, right? I've read hundreds of books. I've done all this kind of stuff. I focused on all these different things that I was interested in, which has allowed me to be here talking about these things, right? I, developed the marketing skills, and I understood content and business so that when I got back into my real estate career, I was able to hit the ground running and start up a 6-figure career with that. And it's just like that was possible because I laid that foundation. So what becomes possible for me? Well, I would tell you what's possible for me is $100 million business. I think I can absolutely do that. And that's the kind of thing I'm gunning for. And I'm going to start focusing on here pretty much right now, as I realized, okay, I'm in the building phase, and what I'm going to be defined by is what I do over the next, 4 or 5 years is really going to define the rest of my life. And so I need to get this shit done. I need to make something big happen. But I would tell you what's not possible for you is like, I'm probably not going to build $1 billion AI company. I don't know shit about tech. That was not part of my foundation. I don't know that much about AI. I don't know how to program or code. I don't know anything about Silicon Valley, right? These things are not in my foundations. And so unless I want to turn around and build a new foundation with those things, it's just not possible for me. Being a world-class athlete, probably not possible. I haven't been training the whole time and doing enough work the entire time. Being a musical artist, I don't have musical talent. I didn't focus on that, right? So you can see certain doors close for me because I don't have those certain things in my foundation. And so unless I'm going to turn around and go through a whole nother foundational period, which still makes it highly unlikely that it's going to happen because I'm so far behind at this point, it's like those doors are just closed, versus I still have built a foundation that I'm thrilled about. And, this was intentional. I didn't intend to be a musical artist. I didn't intend to be $1 billion AI person. So I'm not complaining about this. I'm just trying to show you that like what you choose to do in your foundational period will define what's possible for you. I have the necessary business skills to this point. Sure, they need to get better, but I have those things in place, those foundations that allow me to build something really big for myself now. And not only in my career, it's like I'm also in really good shape, and I've spent a lot of time understanding sexual dynamics to the point where now it's like I can start going on dates with attractive women regularly, and that will continue to get better and better as I continue to push this thing further and further. And you see how like basically it's all about the foundations. The foundations lead to what you can build. And so like if you've been working as a fucking truck driver, again, like I'm not shitting on that, but it's like, where can you take that? You know what I'm saying? You built, that's your foundation. It's like, okay, you get to like $100,000 a year as a truck driver or something like that. That's fine if that's what you want. But my point is like, you guys need to be intentional and understand what is the foundation you're building going to lead to you accomplishing. What can you build off of this foundation? That's really the question. The average person doesn't have the mindset, the fitness, or the career skills to build anything big. They wasted their foundation smoking weed, watching Netflix, jerking off, doing bullshit. And now they're in the spot where they're fat, broke, and their mindset's a mess. And it's like, what's possible for them? It's like, the kind of based on the foundation they've established, the best case scenario for them is to go watch Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps, get themselves out of debt, and, cut off the Big Macs. And that's kind of the game for them. It's like, again, you can make it better, but are you going to be like at the top? Probably not. It's going to be pretty difficult for you. You could do it, but you're going to have to get really fucking serious, and you're going to be behind while you're doing it. People cap their potential in all areas of life with a shitty foundation. It's just really important to understand that. Most of you guys are probably in that foundational period, or you're in the building period right now, and you need to understand that that foundation is so fucking critical that you get that right. Once you exit the foundation period, and you'll know when it's done, you reach a new challenge. So you'll know when it's done, basically. For me, it just kind of clicked one day. It was like, oh, I know what to do. Like, I'm not missing a piece here. Like, I know what to do. I get this. Like, I'm not poor anymore. I'm not like struggling with women anymore. Like, I got this. I get this. Like, you're going to reach that point, and that's when you realize you're out of the foundational period. You've done that stuff. You've built something enough that you're kind of escaped that shit pretty much. And then you reach your new challenge. You have dragged yourself out of the mud and put something together for yourself. Maybe you're making $10,000 a month now. Maybe you're in good shape and women are interested in you. You have some things going for you now. Most men mess this up by mistaking their foundations for the building phase. So this is the huge mistake that most men make, is they drag themselves out of the mud and then they immediately cash out because they're like, okay, I built it. And it's like, you didn't build it. You just did the foundation. It's like, hate to break it to you, man, but this was just the foundation. I mean, in fact, I don't hate to break it to you because it's exciting, because you could go way fucking higher. That's the point. It's like, you got to 10,000 a month. You got a nice car. You got a nice place to live. You're like a decent apartment. People think you're a winner and you're like, yeah, this is great. Let me find my wife. And like, I made it, right? It's like, you didn't make it. You made the foundation. But you're about to squander the best part, which is the building phase. Imagine if LeBron James had just retired instead of going to Miami. He just cashed out. He's like, yeah, I'm good. I did this shit. I did what I came to do. It's like he'd be forgotten, right? It's like the build phase was the great phase, right? You don't fuck this up, because most guys do this. I almost did it to a degree. I was like, you know what? Shit's moving pretty good. Maybe it's time for me to start thinking about like long-term things, like a wife, all these kinds of things. And I realized, I was like, nah, man, like, you need to build something over the next 4 years. We'll deal with that when the time comes. But right now, it's like, there's so much potential ahead of me. And it will be the same for you if you build a good foundation for yourself. You're just like, you're literally looking up at the building you could build, basically. You're just like, holy fuck, like, this could be massive. Like, this is right here. Your mindset's not fucking you up. You genuinely believe it's possible for yourself now. You're not doubting yourself all the time. You have the skills in place. You're like, holy shit, like, I could go build something fucking amazing right now. So don't mess this up. They cash out early rather than seeing how far this can go. Like, I'll give you an example of this, like with women. So like I said, I at this point in my life, I can date sevens very regularly, right? These are attractive women. Most men would love to date and marry these kinds of women, and I can date them. And it clicked for me recently. It was like, all right, well, if I got this far, it's like, how far could I take this? That became the big question for myself. I was just like, wow, like this could be something huge. It's like, all right, if I stick with this for 2 more years, what would my dating life look like? If I got more attractive, I focused on my style more, I got in better shape, even I got my career in an even better place. It's like, what would be possible for me? You know what I mean? And then it's like with my career, it's like, wow, like, I'm making 6 figures a year. This is great. It's like, okay, well, like, I see what's possible. The sky's the limit. It's like, what if I kept doing this shit, right? And it's just this huge mistake where everybody cashes out because, like, they go through the foundations, and your foundations are so fucking hard, right? Because it's just like, you're poor, you have no status, women are repulsed by you half the time, and it's just like sucks. And you're like, I cannot go through this again. That's how people feel about it. And so they cash out rather than building what could have been something extraordinary. And here's where most people cash out, right here. On the blue line, guys cash out around a 6 out of 10, which I would tell you, a 6 out of 10 quality of life is like, you've got a nice apartment, you're making 6 figures, you're in shape, and you're like, all right, I'm good. And you cash out right around here. But you could go so much higher. And then you'll see, like, the normie person also cashes out too. It's like they get that bump maybe around like 25 to, like, they're making decent income now, they can afford a place to live, and they're like, all right, I'm good. And they cash out. And that's kind of what they do. And you see they cruise along and just die, basically. They die off. And like, most people start cashing out at these kind of periods in their like late 20s, mid 20s kind of phase. They just start considering cashing out, basically, because they just don't want to deal with the suck anymore. And they're like, this is good enough. And that's basically what their life becomes, is something where it's just good enough. So the question you need to ask yourself, guys, is just how far can I take this? You really want to be asking yourself that once you get out of the foundational period, is like, Like, I'll give an example. One of the guys in my school community who went on the Life Max trip with me, Akiva. Like, Akiva's building a photography business for dating apps right now. So, like, his foundational skills, he's going to learn sales, he's going to learn content, he's going to learn marketing, he's going to learn photography, he's going to learn how to run a business, he's going to do those kinds of things. It's like, all right, you get to $10,000 a month. It's like, do you just cash out then? It's like, well, no, you could build this and you could end up being like some globally recognized photographer. Like, you could launch a huge course that teaches people how to get dating app photography that makes you six figures a month. You could, be charging more money, have more high end clients, go to more luxury spots. You could be making 50K per month in your business. You could train other people to do stuff for you, so you're just hands off. And like, you see that foundation, like all the stuff's in place based on that foundation. Just how far could I take this? You could make seven figures a year off this kind of thing if that's what you want to do. You could, you know, you're in the gym. It's like, okay, you get to like 25 years old, you're, in shape and all this kind of stuff. You're doing well in your career. Do you cash out on that seven? Or it's like, do you want to fucking roll the dice again? Do you want to go around the wheel again and see just how far you can take this shit, right? And to each his own, right? If that's just not what it motivates you, then fine. But I think for me, I'd be empty inside. I'd be looking at it and saying, like, what if I didn't do it, right? And that's why it's important to, rather than looking back and saying, what if I'd gone for it, ask it from the beginning. Ask, just how far can I take this? And so all of you guys need to be asking that. You need to be just saying, like, all right, how far can I take this, right? I'm in my career. I just made partner at my law firm. It's like, all right, can I become like the top guy? I don't know much about attorneys, but like, okay, can you become the top guy? Can you expand the law firm to another place? All this kind of stuff. It's like, you're a manager, a middle manager of your company. It's like, how far could I take this? Could you be in the C-suite? Could you be the CFO, right? Could you get stock options, make $1 million a year with some startup that's growing? Like, could you do this kind of stuff? You're in your fitness. It's like, you get to a 225 bench and you're 15% body fat. It's like, could you get to a 315 bench at 12% body fat? And you start seeing where this can go, and you're like, holy shit, like a 7 out of 10 ain't enough. I could be a 10. And it's so like, you almost have to dare to do that, because it's intimidating. Like, I genuinely think about that. I'm like, give me 3 years. Like, I could have a fucking Rolodex of models I'm dating. Give me 3 years. I could have a lake house and a Ferrari. Give me 3 years and I could have this shit. And it's like daunting. You're like, holy fuck, like that's actually in reach now. And it's like, when you were down there, it's like all you had was dreams in the foundation period. Like, I had these dreams, but it's like, it's so far off and you can't see the path really. And so it's just like, it's just hope. It's just hope in the fucking darkness while you're building something. But then once you get out of that foundation and things start moving and you can see the path lining up and you're like, oh my God, like all I got to do is just lock the fuck in. Like, just don't fumble this and this could be extraordinary. Like, it goes from you having to make it all happen to you basically just don't fuck this up. Don't cash out. Don't get lazy. Don't do some bullshit. Don't do something stupid. Get distracted. Like, just stay the course. And this thing will take off like a rocket because you have reached a critical mass. It's like compounding, right? This is why your outlier life path hockey sticks like that. It's exponential. It's because you hit a point where everything starts getting easier and things start coming to you and the money's coming in. So now, because you've got the money coming in, you can reinvest in things. So like, if you're in a corporate job, it's like suddenly you start maxing out the 401k, or you're buying investment properties. You're in a business. Well, now you can hire help so you can focus on bigger problems. You can get the better camera. You can hire the thumbnail editor. You can hire an assistant. You can do all these things, and suddenly it just starts taking off like a fucking rocket. Right. And it's just like, you start seeing it, but you don't want to cash out here. Don't fall for that shit. Cause like, this is also when women are going to start convincing you to fall for it. They're going to start talking to you like you're now an asset, right? You've built something for yourself. You have a foundation. You're going somewhere. She's going to try and stop you. She's going to try and convince you that'd be so nice to have kids in a fucking middle class house. Again, nothing wrong with this shit, but it's like, dude, like, save it a few years. It'll be there for you, right? I promise you that woman will want you in 4 years when you're even more successful. You know what I'm saying? Like, get somebody else when the time comes. Like, don't cash this shit out. You've got this one shot at this. Don't blow this. Like, just how far can you take this needs to be the question on your mind. You have one shot to build whatever you will be defined by. Understand that. Now, technically, you have more. You can do it later in life, but it's like, realistically, if you want to maximize your life as a man, if you want to nail the male timeline and get this right, it's like 28 to 32 is a really good time to build the fuck out of something, right? Maybe 26 if you're early, or 30 if you're late. Like, get started with it. But like, this is the moment. Like, you can build whatever your legacy is going to be. Everything that becomes after that is built by what you build right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you sell a company for $40 million, it's like you just take the money from that, buy real estate with it. You live off the residual income from that. Like you're set. You never have to work again. If all you do during the build phase is get to 80K per year, it's like you're in the matrix still. You're going to fucking try and max out your 401k. You're going to live paycheck to paycheck and like hope that you have a little bit of money when the time comes when you're retired, right? You're kind of in it. Again, you can make changes. You can still do some stuff to improve, but like you're largely set in a lot of ways. So like, it's really important to nail this build phase. Ask yourself, okay, if I can make $10,000 a month right now, what could I do if I pushed it further? Seriously, it's like if you can get to 10, you did all that work to get to 10, are you going to stop now or are you going to make it worth it? Are you going to make it worth it? Are you going to go to 50 to 100, right? Like ask yourself. It's like if I can attract 6s and 7s now, what happens if I stick with this for 3 more years? It's like, can you get 10s? Can you get 8s, 9s, right? Like, and it's not all about physical appearance, but like, you know, the quality will get better. And I promise you, like, if you can attract a 7 right now, once you level yourself up, that 7's going to be even more interested in you and she's going to be more pleasant, right? And so like, it's really more about the more you level yourself up, it's not just physical attractiveness, it's the way the women treat you, right? You go from like an option to the option. And now she's like cooking for you on the first date and shit like that. She wants you bad, right? It's like you could go from getting decent respect and maybe getting a match on a dating app from a woman you find attractive to her like begging to see you, right? It's like these kinds of things become possible. You're like, just how far could I take this? That becomes the question. The fear of having to go back through the trenches causes people to cash out after the foundations. This is like, you know, those foundations are fucking brutal. I've talked about it numerous times on here. I made the whole video. It's called What Going All In Actually Looks Like. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it and you'll understand what this really is. But like, so important to understand, like, I mean, your foundations are fucking brutal, right? They suck. They're painful. You don't want to go back through that. And that fear causes you to be like, okay, I'm good. I can't build this again. I can't do this. I cannot go back through that shit. And this leads to a life of what ifs. Because you're like, all right, I got out of it now. Like, let me just be done with this. And it's like, why would you do that? Because you're basically just like one step above normie at this point. Like, you could push this thing. Like, why did you suffer? Did you suffer just to do a little bit better than average? Or did you suffer to be excellent, right? I didn't suffer so that I could have a slightly nicer house and drive a BMW 3 Series while everybody else is driving Camrys. Like, I suffered so I could be that dude, right? Like, I could be that fucking guy. That's why I did this shit, because I want to be the man. Like, not even in an egoic way, but I just want to see what the fuck maybe it is ego. I'll be honest, guys. Like, there's probably some ego in there, but like, I just want to see what the fuck's possible for me. I'm like, I want to be great. You know, I want to do something fucking epic with my life. I don't want to look at a Ferrari and not be able to buy it. Even if I don't want the car, I want to know I could get it if I wanted it, right? I don't want to look at some girl and her be looking at me like I could do better than you. That shit fucking irks me personally, right? Maybe it's an ego trip, but whatever. I didn't do all this shit just to end up with fucking slightly above average, right? With the fucking, you know, the Outback Steakhouse lifestyle or some shit like that while everybody else is on McDonald's. I did this for the Ruth Chris, for the Joe Stone Crab lifestyle, for the Ferrari. I did it for the bad chicks. Like, this is why I did this shit. I did it for physical excellence. I didn't do it for a 225 bench. I did it for a 315 bench with a 6-pack. That's what I'm here for, right? I want to be great. You know what I mean? I don't understand cashing out, guys. Don't fucking fall for this. And it's important to understand the building phase will not be as grueling as the foundations, because now you have some status, a well-developed mindset, and you're better at life. Just understand, because I'm in the build phase now, like, it's not as bad. It's like hard, like there's challenges, and sometimes the challenges are even bigger, but it's like you have developed so much, and also you now have a level of status, like you're attractive to women, you have respect from the community, you have a place to live, you're not poor completely anymore. And so it's like it doesn't hurt you to the core. It's not that shameful, like, I suck, low self-esteem kind of pain. It's just a challenge. It's just difficult at this point. But all that emotional turmoil, it's kind of like a lot of that's gone now, because you got out of the bottom. You realize you're not a complete fuck up and failure that's the dregs of society that women don't want anything to do with. You're done with that phase. And so, yes, it is hard. It is challenging. But it's way better than the foundations period, because you just know how to play the game a bit more, and you're not going to fuck it up unless you're just an idiot. It will still be challenging, but it's not the same level of suffering that it is in the beginning. Play the build phase right, and you get to make your graceful exit into the established phase. This is really important. Like, you want to be able to feel like, again, Mamba out. You want to drop the mic after the 60-point final game and just be like, Mamba out. I'm good on this shit. I did everything I came to do, right? That's the energy you want to have. You don't want to be like, oh gosh, I wish I'd done that. I didn't do it. And I was too scared to leave my hometown, or I was too scared to take this chance, too scared to build this business, like whatever it is. And like, I just cashed out here. And it's like, you don't want those what ifs. You want to be like, no, I did what I set out to do, right? And even if it didn't work out, if it wasn't in the cards for me, it's like I left it all on the field, right? Like, you want to feel that kind of energy, and that's when you can be at peace to move on to the next phase of your life, which is the established phase. This is when you start, planting those seeds permanently. You figure out, I want to live here. I want to have this kind of woman, and you find the wife, you have the kids, you start thinking about your community. You're still building all these things. You've got a business or a career you're still worked on, but it's like you start diversifying a bit, and you start having more of a full, rich life in every element of it, basically. Because you did the work, there's no what ifs. You can get what you actually want instead of what you convinced yourself you'd be happy with. Like, you don't have to get a, Toyota Highlander and convince yourself that was your dream car and that you're stoked about it. You have the car you want. You don't have to, date the girl who was like, you kept convincing yourself that you wanted to go on a date with her because you're like, yeah, she's not that bad, but like, you're not thrilled. You know what I mean? You have the girl you're thrilled about, right? You have the body you're thrilled about. You did all this kind of stuff. There's no what ifs about it, basically. If you're in the foundation phase, you need to watch my Stay Single and Boring for 3 Years video. That is the next thing I want you guys to do if you got this far in the video. If you have not seen the Stay Single and Boring video, this will help you navigating that foundational period. And then once you get through that period, you move into the build phase. You do that right. This is the perfect male timeline. This is how you end up establishing yourself with an extraordinary life, everything you ever wanted, and you get to build that 10 out of 10 life for yourself and live what you wanted to live. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you later.